How did you even decide to start your podcast? When did you wake up and say, like, I'm going to talk to singers?
Well, with that, I had done so many bad interviews in my, early to mid part of my career. And I just was like, one day, I was like, you know what? Actually, no, that's not what happened. What happened was a magazine, Substream magazine, came to me and asked me if I would do a feature for them where I interviewed a singer and they interviewed me. So it was me and Buddy from the band Census Fail, and we interviewed each other. And after I interviewed him, he kind of pulled me aside and said, dude, that was like really good, actually. Like, you really asked me some good stuff. Like, I really enjoyed that. And I was like, huh, maybe there's something here, So I was like, okay, maybe I could do a better job than so many of the just terrible interviews. Like, a lot of the interviews I was doing, to be fair, were like people that just wanted to get into the show for free. you know like, it was like my first website dot angelfire.com or whatever. Like, it was a lot of like real amateur stuff. So, you know but I was a little fed up with it, so I was like, I think I could do something better.
Yeah. I'm going to come back to the podcast, but you said something really interesting there. There's so many misconceptions from your end of the industry, from the band's end of the industry about publicity. And I'm seeing that firsthand now with bands we're working with saying, like, why am I not getting featured here?
Mm,
How come these guys were in Metal Sucks and we're not, whatever the, insert
right.
name is. But there's so much change that happens in the last 20 years. Publications are just like, falling off a cliff. There aren't as many as there used to be. There's more and more
Mhm.
publicists. It's harder to get that organic coverage. Then you have, like you said, all kinds of people that just want to get into the show for free, so they'll do whatever. Like, what's your perspective on press now versus press 10 years ago?
Yeah, it's really changed. I mean, I think what's funny is when I started podcasts, I was interested in long form content. Like, and we're gonna have a long form conversation now. We're
Yeah.
gonna talk for like, an hour, and that's great because, in a standard, like, back in the day, 15-20 minute interview, you don't even scratch the surface of like anything remotely interesting, right? When you get
Mhm.
into like an hour long conversation, you do. But what I think is really funny is how it's consumed now. Like,
Mhm.
I did an interview one time that was the full interview was never published. It was just clips. It was just cuts of 30 seconds throughout the interview, put on TikTok, Instagram, whatever, and that's the way it's consumed. So it's really, really weird how we've completely shifted from long form to like micro form
Yeah.
content. And that's interesting because, yeah, it's like it takes a long time to get the content, but then you only use like tiny little excerpts of it, which I think is kind of bunk, honestly. But we're fighting against people's very short attention spans and limited time with so much shit out there.
Yeah, I agree. There's so much content. I mean, even just music alone, there's so many more releases now than 10, 20 years ago. I see it differently from my perspective, not in terms of the industry, but how I view long form content is like you. I love long form. I think that we need to go back to long form. We need to focus more on, especially with all the division and all the, like, two-sided stuff that's happening in society. We need to focus on people's characters, and it's much easier to get a better idea of who someone is through a long form content. So I see the clips as like a sales funnel or the shorts as a sales funnel to clips, and then the clips as a sales funnel to the longer form content that
Sure.
you just hopefully bring people in.
And that would be great if that was the case. But it's like, it doesn't seem like that is really what happens.
Yeah. So you're like a mild 385 episodes into your podcast.
Yeah.
Uh, how do you keep going?
Yeah. It's been a challenge, man. I think like for the first, 5, 6, 7 years, I was like, really, really hustling, and I pretty much never missed a week, you know. But it's been tougher to juggle it and to continue to get that content going, especially like just the amount of work that goes into each and every episode.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's like it's taken a bit of a backseat now, I think, to some of the other stuff I've been doing. Um, yeah, it's just tough, but it kind of goes in waves a little bit where like, I get inspired and I do a bunch of like really cool interviews with really cool people that I'm excited about. And then I go through like a lull where I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna focus on, like music and like doing things I want to do. And like, I don't know, just enjoying my life. So, there's like, it's a give or take a little bit with that, but yeah, I mean, I haven't put out an episode in a little while right now, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
looking to jump on the
October was
horse. I got a few in the can that are pretty good. So yeah, and I still love it. Every time I do it, I enjoy it. And I've met so many friends through it as well.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, October, I think, of last year was the most recent one, but I mean, still, you can with 10 years of podcasting history, I think you can afford to take a few months off and then keep it going, keep it
Yeah,
fresh.
that's where I'm at the moment. Yeah.
What's it like for you personally, from either side, right? There's a huge difference between the art of interviewing and then being asked questions. Do you have, like, a
hmm
preference? Do you like being on one side versus the other?
Well, it's a lot easier to be interviewed than do the interviewing. Like you have the much harder job than I do right now. Like there has to be a certain amount of like preparation and planning, but then also
Mhm,
like when you're in the midst of it, like you have to say, oh, how is this going? Like, where are we taking this conversation? What kind of, demeanor, mood do I have the guest in? Like, where can I take this that goes to a natural place, but still follows like, you know, the whole, um, narrative that I'm trying
mhm.
to, get out of this, right? Like that's what I always think. When I interview somebody, I go, what is it? What is the
Yeah,
thing? Like what is the point of all this? What am I trying to, you know, um like I look at it almost like a science project, like what's the freaking hypothesis and what's the conclusion, and you got to go through that um and the steps, the procedure on the way there, it's not cut and dried, and you have to really really like maneuver sometimes. Like some people talk too much and you have to kind of like sort of like push them in a certain direction. Some people don't talk enough and you've got to like kind of fill it. And some people will go on and on and on about like the most boring shit like that is completely dumb, or they've talked about a million times before.
mhm,
People love to repeat things in interviews, right? Because it's easy and they
yeah.
know it works. So you have to really dig sometimes to find those interesting parts when you're interviewing. So I love being interviewed because I don't know. It's I just showed up at the time and here I am. I didn't even think about it. So it's a lot easier.
Yeah, I agree. You said something cool there. It's, that I think a lot of people don't really get is the mood, like the mood of the guest or the mood of the interviewer sets such a crazy tone. I've done like hundreds of interviews over the 20 plus years that V13's been online. This is new series for me. I'm only like 75 chats in, very different worlds because you're trying to keep something going for much longer and balance like talking points with natural flow. But I had one guest who I guess the publicist didn't tell that person at all about what to expect, and
Yeah.
then was in, like, a long day of doing interviews back to back. I was the last one. He got on with such a horrible attitude, and the first thing said was, "I don't talk about personal stuff," and I was like, "I guess this is not happening." And sure enough, like, 5, 10 minutes of back and forth, and then we just had to shut it down because it wasn't going anywhere, but
Huh. Damn.
it's so crazy, like, I've experienced that too with venues where you go backstage and someone's like, "Dude, I know this is scheduled, but I have sound check and my guitar amp fell apart and I'm just not feeling it, so peace." How do you
Yeah,
approach
I mean, that's not my personality though to do that. Like I'm not that kind of like I don't know, I'm not that kind of a personality. I don't know how else to say it. Like, I've committed to this, so I'm here and I'm going to do my best. Like my life could be falling apart in pieces, like I'm still going to be here, man. Like that's just who I am, and I think like some people just they don't see it the same way.
Mm,
But I'm like, I mean, I respect your time also, you know, not just my time.
Yeah,
So, you know, there's a give and take there. But yeah, man, I think too, though, when you're interviewing somebody, you have to remember that you're setting the tone for what the interview is going to be. Like if I pick up the phone, you know, and I'm like, "Hey man, yeah, you ready for this interview?" It's gonna be a lot different than I'm like, "Hey dude, what's up, man? I like really, you know, I'm really excited to talk to you." Like right
yeah,
away, there's like that's night and day. That's just a different energy you're going to get from a person based on what you give them, you know? I mean,
yeah,
you can't not some people are just dicks and some people are gonna be what they're gonna be no matter what. But I find, you know, the more kind of like lively you are, the more of a lively, you know, response you'll get. I think that that's just human nature.
100%. Well, so that, ties in nicely to what we're gonna talk about a little bit more, which is the mindset. It sounds like you're overall a positive guy, you respect and value people's times, and you probably do the same for yourself. Is that one of the things that has led towards so many different successes across a 20 plus year career now is just like positive mindset?
I think that that doesn't hurt. Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think you know it's like hard to look inside yourself and then summarize like 25, 30 years of you know of like doing music seriously and just saying, oh, it's this because it's not ever just one thing. But I
Yeah.
mean, I do think that I'm kind of the same guy that I was like at the beginning. I don't think I've had much of a personality shift. I think the one thing that comes with age and with success is you gain a little bit of confidence. Um I think that's something that I've definitely like found, but um yeah, it's really hard to just chalk it up to like a couple things. Like it's there's so much that has happened
Mhm.
and you know, I don't know if I have like a clear-cut answer, you know,
Yeah.
with that. I think staying grounded is important though. I think you know, I think there's a lot of like delusional people out there. There's a lot of people that think they're like the second coming of fucking Prince or something, and you know, it's like I think those people have a lot of harder time with it, you know, than the people that
Yeah.
are you know more down to earth.
So that 10-ish-year-old you that was like, I heard my sister's copy of the Black Album," you think that that guy is the same now as he was then, just full on loves music, "That's why I'm doing this"?
Yeah, pretty much, man. I think like yeah, I think I guess you read another interview I talked about that, but like, you know, I remember hearing that being in my sister's room, she was out, she had the CD player. It was all the rage at that point in like 1991 or 1992. And yeah, I remember cranking that stereo up. I think I was home alone, which is kind of weird. Like I was only 11, but maybe that's fine. I don't know. But I remember cranking that stereo up and like listening to those songs, and I felt like deja vu. I felt like I had heard that record before. It was really, really weird. And at that age, I didn't know what that was. Like I didn't know
Mhm.
there was a name for it or anything. I just like I felt like I had heard it before. It spoke to me in a way that nothing had ever spoken to me before. And at that moment was when I knew I had to do something. Like I didn't really know what, but I had to
Yeah.
do something. And that was like important to me. And that was what I had to do. And, you know, I guess that was, yeah, 30, more than 30 years ago. And I haven't really looked back.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how fast time flies. My grandma used to always say, like, "Time flies and we fly with it," and you don't really appreciate
Mm.
that until you say things like 30 years ago and it feels like it could be 5. Um, I usually
Yeah.
save, like, the, advice stuff for the end, but, like, what are some of the things as this band that came up out of nowhere in the Toronto scene and then has, blown up internationally, what are some of the things that you swear by that aspiring artists or musicians have to be able to get to where you are?
Oh, that's a really tough question. You bring up Toronto and it kind of made me think of it one way. And then I think of it like on a bigger scale too, you know? And I think, but I think like, you know, growing up where we grew up, it's such a like it's a huge city, right?
Yeah,
And it's a huge, you know, like the biggest city in Canada, and the entire music industry really is there, and everything. But also, it's so small too. Like it's such
Mhm.
a small world, and I don't know. I find that all very interesting. But I think like for us, we always had aspirations larger than just you know the place we were from,
Yeah.
and for us, like we didn't sign to a Canadian label. We wanted to sign to a US label because we looked at a map and went, "Oh, there's a lot more cities in the United States than there is in Canada, and they're not 8 hours apart from each other." So we always looked at it like, you know, maybe we're not the biggest band in Toronto in the scene, or the most loved or whatever, but like, you know, there's more out there for us. So,
Mhm.
we signed to a label that was in Chicago, and we toured the US over and over and over again, and that was where we found our really first success, was south of the border. Um and then there was a bit of a trickle up effect, I guess, to
Yeah.
to Canada and Toronto, and obviously that's like was super important to us and is still super important to us. But I think that was a big thing. So, in terms of advice, I guess for people, I think that's just because like you're in some shitty town somewhere and like there's not much going on, remember that there's a whole world outside of your area, and a lot of that means just as much or more than where you're from. And I was watching. Did you see this new boy band documentary? I don't know if it's on Netflix or what it's on. It's like it's pretty interesting. I just like went up. I think there's 2 episodes in. I'm like an episode and a half in, and it's like they sit down with all the big '90s boy bands like
Okay.
Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and Boys to Men, and they tell their like crazy stories. But what really I found really interesting about that was like nobody cared about the Backstreet Boys when they came out. Like no one in the US would play them on the radio. No one cared. They went, okay, and then they got big at Germany first. And they were huge in Germany. They were playing like arenas, and then finally they got a chance, in the US. And sometimes that's the way it goes. And that doesn't mean like just because you don't have success in your own backyard doesn't mean that you aren't worthy of it. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's just there's lots of gatekeeping, in this industry too, and you got to fight against that.
What about the mindset? Because I mean, you guys seem to get signed pretty quick, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, was Silverstein was like a side project from a different punk band you had going, and then it seemed like
Yeah.
after the first release, or even with the first release, you were already signed. That doesn't happen for every artist. Was there something you were doing to attract that attention? Did you have a certain strategy? How did you basically, how did you get, stuff like this so
Sure,
quick?
yeah, that's sick. That's cool. Well, yeah, what happened really was we we were all in bands before, and we all had, kind of limited local success. Like my band was called Jerk Circus, skate punk band. Some very talented guys like in my band. I mean, our bass player, he's in the band of Wilhelm Scream now.
Mm,
He's one of the best bass players in Canada. He's incredible. Our drummer Andy Lewis, who was also in the Full Blast later on, incredible punk drummer. And we had some pretty good songs, but like that's never enough. Like there has to be more to it. You have to, you know, I don't know. There's just a lot that goes into it, and it's hard when you're like a young teenager to understand what that is. What is that thing? What do you have to do to get people to really, support you and all that. So, I think with that band, we made a lot of mistakes. We just didn't know what to
mhm,
do. And I could probably say the same for, whether it was Josh's old band or our the bands that our first guitar player Richard was in. So the idea really with Silverstein was to start something that was different from what other bands in the area were doing. Um, and, just kind of like start over a little bit. And what was interesting was like very quickly you know, we kind of had notoriety like right away just from our old bands. Our first show, like we had a good amount of people there. People were just interested to see what, you know, the super group of Burlington, if you will,
Yeah.
was gonna sound like. And there was that, and a lot of credit to our drummer Paul, who is our still to this day our manager, for really pushing us and like saying, okay, we let's play this show, let's play this show, let's do this, let's do this. And and really it just like was keeping us really busy. But I didn't think that the band was going to go anywhere, and I didn't
Mm,
think that we were even going to make a record or anything. I thought we'd play a few shows, maybe record a demo, and then it was like the end of high school, and we were all going off to university the next year and everything. Including our guitar player Richard went all the way to Victoria, BC for school. So I thought the band was going to be dead. But I don't know. People just gravitated to it, um, locally, and the scene continued to grow with like a lot of the other great bands that were at it at that point, like Moneen, Boys Night
right.
Out, Alexa on Fire. We had a really great group, a great scene, in the kind of 905 area there,
Wow.
outside Toronto, and yeah, really, man, it was just like um I don't know. That was just pivotal to us, getting our start. And then, it was like, okay, we did our first demo, it was all right. And we did our second demo, and it was like, okay, we're gonna use this as a release for our
Hmm.
fans, like 6-song EP, but we're also gonna take like the best songs and we're gonna shop it. We're gonna just basically send it to record labels. And I mean, we didn't know what to do. All we did was like we made little press kit CD folders. I actually saved one. I actually have one in the other room. And we sent them out to every label. And literally Victory Records called us in like a day. Like I don't even know how they got the package and called us like so fast. We were already on the road to getting signed to them. Like we might have already been signed, and we were still getting rejection letters from other labels. Like we were already making a record and we were getting rejection letters from other labels. So, um, but the thing was, is like we weren't the hottest ticket in town. Like Victory wanted to sign us, and they were a huge label, but we didn't really have any other offers.
Mm,
And it wasn't like a situation like you hear about with I don't know, like Fall Out Boy. Like every label wanted to sign Fall Out Boy, or I think Motion City Soundtrack was another one. Like every label, they had their pick of the litter. We didn't have anything. We had one label that happened to be a big one, and it was really, it was the right sound, the right time, the right label, and we were the right age, and it was kind of a perfect storm. Um, and then we just got in our 1996 purple Dodge van with the heat permanently stuck on and no air conditioning, and we
yeah.
uh and we got in the van, and that was it, and that's what we did for the next 3
30
years.
years.
Well, yeah, 25 years now, but I mean, like, I'm talking like, the just the van, like no trailer, like sleeping in the van, no bus,
Yeah.
no nothing, like just really, really touring like as dirty as possible back then.
Yeah. That's so awesome, man. I'm so happy for you. I hear the same thing from most artists, is that authenticity in the art is number one. Like even Jake Gold, I talked to him last year. He was the last chat I had of last year, and he said, for anyone that doesn't know, Jake Gold's an artist manager and famously did Tragically Hip. It was very pivotal in their career. But he said, like, there's definitely an element of right place, right time, luck, but at the end of the day, it's about the music. If the music sucks, it's not gonna sell. So you
Mm.
guys had that perfect storm of amazing music, a kind of a new sound, amazing talent from the area, but then also a little bit of luck, a little bit of timing.
Yeah, I mean, all of the above. I think like it's funny because when you're in it, you don't know it. You don't
Yeah.
realize it's the perfect time. All that stuff is like later in hindsight. Um, but I think like, yeah, looking back, it really was. And what I found very interesting too was the sound that we kind of had naturally come up with, which was
Mhm.
sort of like a mixture of like uh different kinds of bands in the like scene that were popular at the time. Like I think, we sounded our biggest influence was the Get Up Kids. We didn't sound that much like the Get Up Kids, but because we also took elements from like Poison the Well, who I actually saw yesterday or 2 days ago. It
Cool.
was really freaking cool to see them back out. But we took like the heavy elements from like Poison the Well, and then we took the kind of like emo elements from the Get Up Kids, and then we took maybe more of the pop punk stuff from Saves the Day. We kind of combined these sounds into one. But what was funny was there was a lot of other bands that were doing that too at the time. A
Mm.
lot of bands had come up with sort of the same like conclusion, the same like this is what's next. Without like we didn't talk to each other. We didn't know who Census Fail was or anything like we didn't know these bands. So it was really interesting to see that all happening. And then it was like everybody was ready for it.
Yeah.
Everybody, this is what everybody wanted, is what I wanted as a 21-year-old, fan of music. And I was like, let's just this is what I want to do. And I had a very strong vision in those early days. Very strong, very particular as to what it should be musically. So I'm still a lot
Sounds
like that, but back then I was like kind of crazy.
Yeah,
So
well, I mean, that's awesome. It sounds like we need to talk about manifesting, but let me say something first because you said something really key there that I think speaks volumes to your success and who you are. And you said we didn't care about failure. We just tried a bunch of shit. We didn't know if it was going to work out. And we just, made our own little CD packages. We started to mail it out. I think that's so
Mm.
important because,
Oh, well, we assumed failure, actually.
yeah,
That's the truth, is I didn't think it was gonna I didn't think Victory Records was gonna call us. I didn't like it was kind of the opposite of when people talk about manifesting.
sure.
It was like we're just gonna do it, and like we're gonna send this out to 30 labels, and like, hey, maybe like Lobster Records out of California will want to sign us. Cool, like they got some cool bands, or like maybe Sonic Onion will want to do something with us, like locally,
Hmm.
Um, they both didn't want to, but Victory did. So it was one of those like shoot for the moon, land at the stars, or
Yeah.
whatever they say. But yeah, man, there wasn't it wasn't like failure wasn't an option. That wasn't our mantra or anything. It was more like this is probably gonna fail, but let's just enjoy it. Let's just have fun with
Yeah.
it. Let's just take the opportunity we have now. But we never thought it was gonna like grow, and we never thought we were gonna be a band, or like I used to laugh when people would call what I was doing like a career. I was like, a career? I was like, Paul McCartney has a career. I'm just a guy in a van. So it wasn't like I always thought that was a funny word to use for like what we were doing. I'm like, we drive around, we play 25-minute set, I scream my head off, my voice is gone. We try to sell some t-shirts so we can put some gas in the van to get to the next place, and maybe we'll like see some cool shit, and have a good time. And that's what it was about. I mean,
Mhm.
of course, like we took it professionally. We wanted to do a good job.
Yeah.
We wanted the people that came out to have a good time, and we wanted to put on a good show, but it was definitely a different kind of level of what's the word? I don't, we weren't all that serious about it, is I guess
Yeah.
the truth, is that like we were, but we also thought this was all going to just go away, like
Right.
whether it was 6 months or a year or maybe even 2 years. We just all thought we were going to like do this for 2 records, break up, and then go back to school or whatever. That's what
Yeah.
we thought. And here we are 25 years later, and I still don't have my degree. Sorry, mom.
But that's kind of the point though, right? Like when people like are fearful of failure or want something too badly, then oftentimes it doesn't work out the way they thought. You guys were doing
Yeah.
it without the fear of failure. You're like, fuck it, let's just go all in and see what happens, even if we crash and burn. And the irony is that that concept of fear of failure, there's so much failure that happens along the way to not to
Oh yeah.
succeed.
Yeah, like micro failures, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Like and that's the other thing too, is like managing your expectations is so damn important as a small band. Like if we broke up I mean broke up if we like really took it to heart every time we rolled into a show and there was like, 17 people there,
Mm,
we would have had a lot of heartbreak. But like, there were a lot of shows that had like 25, 30, 40 people. Like that was normal. You roll into like St. John, New Brunswick on a Tuesday night, like what do you expect?
yeah,
Um, but there was a lot of that, man. There was a lot of like, we'd be driving to the show, the promoter would call and they'd be like, "Oh, it's gonna be insane tonight. We're gonna have like 300 people." And then we would be like, "All right, let's just say let's say there's like 100. There's gonna be 100, and if there's 300, then like we'll be really excited. But if there's only
yeah,
50, then like that's okay too." And you really have to go in with that mindset to things like that when you're in a band, because like once in a while you have those things that blow your mind, but more often than not, there is a series of disappointments
mm,
and you know, maybe not quite defeats, but definitely like disappointments to where you go, well, that was fine, or that was okay, or and you really can't let those break you.
yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I had this chat literally last week with an artist from New York, and it was during the conversation that I really felt the meaning of art for art's sake, because we realized that the conversation we're having, this podcast, this thing that we want to film and spread out, was simply for us in that moment, no one else. And if other people view it and see it, that's great, but really
Yeah,
I'm doing it for me.
yeah,
So from a musical standpoint, it's the same thing with the show, right? Like if you get on that stage and say, "I don't care how many people are here, I'm singing because I love singing," then it removes that disappointment of not having a lot of people there or a lot of people there, whatever.
yeah. Well, I think the thing that made me notice that the most, that concept of what you're talking about, was lyrics. And
Mm,
and like when I would write lyrics, in my bedroom, when I was like a 17, 18-year-old heartbroken teenager, I would write it down and I wrote it for me. I didn't really write it because I was trying to be a famous rock star or
yeah,
anything. I wrote what I was feeling. And then, when it came time to like put those into songs and play them live, like I don't know. I was too lazy to change them and make them cooler, or whatever it really was really what happened. Or I was screaming them into like a PA you could barely hear anyway. So like I didn't feel like I was putting myself out there like the same way that maybe I do now, because I'm a little more comfortable in my own skin. But what I found really interesting was like once, we put out that first album, which was like, songs that I had written over the last few years,
mhm,
and those lyrics like got into people. They were like there was so much relatability with people, and I didn't think about that. I didn't think about like I'm trying to write this so people can relate to it. I just wrote what I was feeling. But the thing that's so funny is that how timeless, even those songs and those lyrics are now, even 25 years later, because young people, teenagers, we all went through the same
yeah,
things, the same feelings. And like, it's amazing how timeless all that stuff is, and how, people just hear that and go, "Oh my God, like that's exactly what I'm feeling too." And so that's been something that I really found important, because when I wrote the second album and we had already sold hundreds of thousands of the first one, and I knew everyone would thing was going to be bigger and whatever. I really had to remember that 17-year-old kid in the bedroom,
mm,
and remember writing that way and writing for myself and writing about what I was feeling. Maybe not as a 17-year-old now, maybe now I'm a 23 or 24-year-old writing that record, but like it was, the same idea. Like don't don't dumb yourself down. Don't try to write what you think people want to hear. Write what you're feeling, because what you're truly feeling will be way more relatable than what you think people want to hear.
yeah.
And that
I
and that was something that I learned so much from, when we started out.
100%, I totally agree with you. Your truth is your art. That's what people don't get, people will latch onto something and then try to copy it, and it doesn't really stick, and it's because it's not their truth.
Yeah, it's
Your
not
truth.
authentic. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. No, I mean,
So here
I could it's like it's the same as, you see it all the time in, like, in, I think of it when you, like, you're watching, like, something about, I'm trying to think of, like, something that I'm an expert in, like a baseball movie or something, right? Like, a baseball movie has to be written by a person that knows a lot about baseball and has a passion. You couldn't
yeah,
just be like, "Oh, yeah, I kinda, like, know enough about baseball, and I'm gonna write a movie about it." Like, it won't work. It won't be real. It won't be right, you know? Maybe that baseball is a bad example, but that's there's a lot of that happens, you know? You have to kinda live it to write it, and
yeah.
I think that's the truth.
You gotta live it to write it. So what do you think now, mid-40s, is, like, one of the biggest changes or growths mentally, emotionally, spiritual that you've had since that first album, since, 2000?
Hmm. Yeah, well, I said at the beginning that I'm like kind of the same guy, and I like in some ways I do believe that, I do feel that way, but I think yeah, the maturity that starts to come, and the confidence is really the biggest thing. You know, I
Mhm,
feel like I could, you know, put a song together, and I think it could be pretty good.
mhm,
And like you don't always feel that way as a
yeah,
musician, you know. You go through like places where you go, "Oh, I suck. I'm terrible. I'm the worst singer there is," you know. Like you feel those the imposter syndrome and all that, and like I
mhm.
think everybody goes through that. I definitely did. But then you get to a point where I don't know what age it was when you just kind of go, I don't give a fuck. Like I just, and I've gotten this far and I'm like, I guess I'm decent at what I do.
Mhm.
Um, and I think there's a big change there when when you're younger and you really, you know, I think, there's like, it's like two times the types of people. You're either overconfident or underconfident, you
Yeah,
know, and now at this age, I feel like I'm right where I need to be, maybe, if that makes sense.
yeah, absolutely, but it's all the hard work, the successes, the failures that led you to that. Do you feel like that confidence translates into your everyday life as well? Who you are as a friend, as a partner, whatever, a bandmate?
Yeah, I think so. I'm constantly learning things. You know, that I've always been that kind of a person. Like even as a kid, I'd ask my mom like what a word meant,
Mm,
and she would instead of her saying, "Well, it means this," she'd go, "Well, let's look it up in the dictionary." So we would. So we would get the dictionary out and we would, I know it wasn't because she didn't know what the word meant. It was because she wanted, I think well, first the accuracy of what it actually is, and also I think that's just good practice
mhm,
to like, oh, there's something I don't know about. Well, I'm gonna like do my research on it, and like that's how I am in my life. Like it's funny sometimes the other guys in the band, like they'll be like arguing about something, and then they'll go, oh, let's ask Shane. Like I don't know if it's because I'm the oldest guy in the band, but they'll ask me, and I mean, to be fair, like most of the time I do kind of have an idea, but sometimes
yeah,
I'm like, why the fuck are you asking me? Why do I don't know, you know? But that's just I think who I am. Like I think I've always been like I always want to learn. I always want to find the best method to do something.
mhm,
Um, that's 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 kind of ingrained in me. Like there's like the normal path someone might take to do something. I'm always going to be well, how can I do that better? And that's just how I am.
yeah,
So
that's
I think
awesome.
I think that hasn't changed, but maybe my some of my like tact has changed a little bit, and definitely yeah, some of my maturity in that way too.
Like diplomacy and how you handle things or how you, attack something a little bit maybe softer than when when we were younger. Sounds
Yeah,
like you're
yeah, maybe I try to be anyway.
Well, sounds like you're grounded, sounds like you're grateful, sounds like you've been like, it was instilled in you young to be curious and inquisitive, but
Yeah.
also, like, determined. What would you say is the thing that you should probably fix or work on the most of yourself?
Well, I'm still pretty messy. Um, I got a lot of shit. And yeah, that's always been something, I think my organizational skills are always have always been in question at times. I think I'm a lot better than I used to be, but
Mm,
I always like got it like I'm just thinking right now like I really got to clean my garage, things like that. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I think that it like I'm always a battle with me and listening. I I'm not a great listener sometimes. Maybe that's just being male. I don't know, but yeah, those are always two things that I think about, and I guess I have the undiagnosed ADHD, which is
mm,
very common, I think, with people that do what I do and people in my age group or whatever. So I think there's something going on there with me, but
yeah.
I think sometimes it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, messy, I could understand sometimes my stuff is all over the place and then I'll take the time to like bring things in, but there's a balance there. And I think ironically, what you just said about yourself is what's needed to be both a lead singer or a front man and the host of a podcast. You need to know that, yeah, man, I talk a lot. I need to be able to talk a lot, but also there are times when I can shut up and focus and listen and go back and forth with my guest.
Yeah, I don't mean so much like in interviews and stuff like this. Like, I think I do an okay job. I just more mean like when my like girlfriend's like talking to me, and then all of a sudden I'm like, "Oh, that's a cool bird," and I'm like, like like shit like that. Just being real with you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Okay, I wanna talk about the new music, but first, let's do a detour, and we're gonna go down both roads, but you get to pick the road first. What came first, sports or pinball or comics or cartoons?
Well, I mean, that's funny. I mean, I got a Nintendo at a pretty young age. Like I was like, I want to say I was like 4,
Mm,
and because my sister's 7 years older than me.
okay.
So we got the Nintendo, and my sister was like dying to have it. I didn't even know what it was because I was so little, and I got really into like video games, like 8-bit video games when I was a kid. I was a pretty big video game wizard, and then that translated into um like arcade games, like
Mhm,
Street Fighter 2 in the arcade, playing for quarters and stuff like that, and I'm a pretty good foosball player actually, surprisingly, but yeah, but pinball was something that was always there when I was a kid, but I never took it as seriously as video games for some reason. I think because pinball's really hard.
mm,
And I think that the value of like, okay, I can put a quarter in a Street Fighter machine and I can like keep beating kids and play that for like, half an hour till someone finally beats me, plays cheap and beats me. But with pinball, I don't know, it was always there, but I was never as into it. And then kind of like I moved out here to Las Vegas, and there's a place called the Pinball Hall of Fame, which has like 400 pinball machines. And like a lot of them are broken and it's like kind of a dump, but at the same time, like there was a lot of the games that I remembered from my youth.
mm,
And I just like kind of just rekindled my love for pinball and being like, I used to play this. And there's something about the like analog aspect of pinball. Like it's no two games are the same. Like, Super Mario Brothers, the original, it's like that Goomba is coming at the same speed in the level one, and you jump on it, and it's the same every time. You jump, and the mushroom comes out, and you jump, and you get it, and you land on the brick, and like it's very. But pinball, it's like you could hit the ball the same way, and the ball's not going to go exactly the same spot.
yeah,
So that's a big part of why I love pinball, and also just like what they've done with modern games in the past like few years, like the big LCD screens and like all the crazy shit and the internet connectivity. Like the games are amazing now too. So that was always big for me. And then when I was like probably, you know, well, 92, 93, when the Blue Jays won the World Series, I was at a very formative age, like 11, 12. But I mean, even before that, my dad had seasons tickets for the Blue Jays, and we'd go down there all the time. I remember watching Dave Stieb lose a no hitter in the ninth inning in 1990. Roberto Kelly hit the double off him in the bottom of the ninth inning with two out. Like, I remember this stuff, and I was 10 years old, 9 years old. So I was at the Skydome opening ceremony, actually, believe it or not, when they opened
That's
it. Alan Thicke hosted, and yeah, I was there for that. So sports were just huge for me at that age. My dad, come from a big baseball family. Always played baseball. I played basketball in high school. So yeah, I think that those were really huge for me. And then music was there as well, and playing guitar and
yeah.
drums and all that. And those were like always kind of the three things on the go for me, you know, um, as a kid.
So it sounds like video games came first, but they all materialized like around the same time during those like formative young years. You said something cool. I just had this thought about the pinball is that I'm with you. I love the tactile nature of it. I love going into a bar or a restaurant and seeing this machine and lights. It's almost like the physical of the music world, right? It's almost like the vinyl equivalent of
Yeah,
video games.
that's a great analogy. Yes. Yeah.
So, did you ever go to Bathurst Bowlerama in Toronto?
I don't remember ever going there. It's Bathurst and what?
I think it's gone now, but it was Bathurst south of Lawrence on the west
Okay,
side of
no,
Bathurst.
no, I wouldn't have gone up that far.
So I only bring it up because I was like you. I got into this stuff around the same time. My parents didn't get me a Nintendo. They were like focused on dollars and teaching us lessons about money. So we ended up getting a Sega Master System, which was
Yeah, I remember
a
Sega, the
fun
OG
beast as
Sega.
well.
Hmm.
So I got this at Bathurst Bolorama. This is
Cool.
like the first Ninja Turtle from this chick named Rachel. But that was my introduction into pinball. And I remember they had like, I don't know, Top Gun or Godzilla pinball, and it was just mind blowing. And then across from that, they had Rampage, the old school arcade game Rampage.
Yeah, love
It
Rampage.
was just it's kind of like live music. Once you see it and get immersed, that feeling, you can't shake it, and then you wanna do more of it.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah,
What
I grew up, I grew up in Oakville, so yeah, but we had all the different arcades, the Milky Way arcade, Trafalgar Village Mall. And I wish I remember what pinballs they had, but we actually, I went to White Oaks Secondary School in Oakville, and we had a pinball machine in the cafeteria.
mm,
So that's pretty crazy to have a pinball machine in your high school, but we did.
that's rad. I have a gift for you next time I come down to Vegas. I didn't even realize you were there. I thought you were still in Toronto. I have a surplus of these, like,
Sick.
Toronto cups. Do you have one
That's
lying
sick.
around?
I was no, I have I moved it to the other room. I have a original 91 All-Star Game hat that
Nice.
was right here, but I moved it. I'm like I said, I'm messy. It's in my other room now. But I didn't go to the 91 All-Star Game, but I did go to the Home Run Derby. Uh and I remember it was Cal Ripken Jr. won it.
It was
So
a it was a wild time to be a baseball fan, that's for sure. Uh, I'm guessing that because you moved to Vegas, that's how you got linked up with the punk rock museum, or did you already talk to those guys beforehand?
that was a big part of it. I've known Fat Mike of No Effects. I mean, they're one of my favorite bands of all time.
Yeah.
And I've known Mike since like 2004 when we did Warped Tour with them. So we've always like been, kept in touch a little bit. And when I moved out here, like it was like I moved here, and like a week later they were like gonna open the museum. So I said to Mike, I was like, "Hey, I just moved out here. I don't know if you guys like need any help or anything, setting up the museum, but I'm around." So he's like, "Yeah, yeah, come down." So I just like came down, and then I thought I was like gonna do some like real work, and he's like, "Yeah, just like walk and take this TV and put it on the shelf." And they like filmed me like pretending to do stuff like as promo. I was like, "Okay, cool." But yeah, but man, they've done an awesome job at the
Yeah.
Punk Rock Museum. Like, have you been there?
I've only been once, and I was there with a buddy, and then on a whim went upstairs to the tattoo parlor, booked a session, got something small here. So I even
Okay.
I even lost this chain. I had the same chain. I was at the museum getting the tattoo. I gave it to my buddy who, like, was high out of his mind. It fell off his lap. And then we would then have this whole ordeal of like getting in touch with them and going through all the security footage to find out like what happened to it. Sure enough, we found the shot of it being picked up off the floor. And at that point we realized there's nothing we can do.
Oh, someone just took it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah, there you go. That's some gutter punk shit right there. Uh, no,
Yeah.
no, but I think they've done an awesome job with it. I would like highly recommend it. And yeah, and then Mike asked me if I wanted to do tours, so I've been doing tours every now and then. Um, I haven't done one in a while, but I'll probably get some more on the books. And yeah, it's fun to just like walk around and talk about all the shit in there because it's super cool.
Yeah, it's really rad. I love how well they've curated to the broad spectrum of punk and hardcore punk. There's even like, some rock and grunge, that famous Kurt Cobain sofa in there.
Yeah.
It's really good. I picked up some merch for my kids and all that jazz, and I'm definitely gonna go back. Um, what do you think is I want to wrap on your new music and the
Yeah.
two singles you have out now. I know that you have a hard stop coming up. What do you think is one of the biggest misconceptions about being a successful musician?
Uh, I don't know. It's a tough one, man. I think like we're in a kind of an interesting position with our band because like we never really had a hit, you know? Like we never had that radio song that like tore up the charts, and then like we had the big video on MTV or like we never had that. We've just kind of had a consistent like all of our albums were pretty good and we had we've had a really good fan base that supported us and has grown with us and but like it's funny sometimes because people don't really understand that like we're that big and we're pretty big. So it's kind of
Yeah.
funny to me like like I'll tell people, like, oh, like it's just somebody like I meet at here in Vegas or a friend of a friend or something, and like, oh yeah, what do you do? Oh, I'm in a band. They go, oh, okay, so like, what do you do for work? No, that's what I do. Yeah. Oh, how long you been doing that? Oh, well, 25 years. Oh, and you don't you've never had another job? Like people really like even people that interview me sometimes like they're
Yeah.
they're like they think that, we're like this small band and that like I'm you know, working at I don't know, Home Depot when I'm home or something. Like and there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that. But I think it's a funny misconception. It's like people either think that you like are poor and you have to work like a second or third job when you're home, or they think you're so rich that like you're just like multimillionaire status.
Mhm.
It's like I always think that that's a funny kind of misconception that people have.
That
Um,
there's no middle ground between the 2 extremes.
yeah, there's no middle ground, but I think we're the middle ground.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what? Like, I've had a couple of chats with like people on the other side of the industry, on the label side and the management side recently, and they're really talking about how streaming is marketing. It's not the product. The product is like your diehard core audience. It's the people that are buying physical or any type of merch, supporting the artist with their dollars, going to shows. Do you think that you guys have had a lot of success because you were able to capture a really cool core audience of like true fans in the MySpace era and then convert them over to this new world?
I think that's a long road. That was a long time ago. I think like it's really interesting to see how the fan base changes over
Mhm.
and like not everybody that comes to our shows heard about us on MySpace. Some of them did, you know, and some of them are still coming around and they're like in their 40s and they've like left the kids at home with the babysitter or they're bringing the kids with them to the show.
Yeah.
Like there are those people, but like, the first 5, 6 rows of people, they're like teenagers. that have found out about our band in the past couple of years, um, somehow,
Yeah.
and how is always interesting to me. Like, what was it? Was it did something, was it TikTok? Did that something came across? Like, did when My Chemical Romance got back together, did they hear about that band and then, well, what else is kind of like that? And then they found out about us and went, oh, that's like my shit. I like that. Or I don't know. Or did they hear our new music somehow from all the newer promotion? And I don't know, but like, it's always interesting to see how we still have young people coming to our shows, and we always have. So there's always been that, like, that those younger people, and they grow up too, right? And
Mhm.
now a lot of the people that were, you know, 15 and 10 years ago, now they're in their mid 20s, and the people that were, you know what I mean? It's always interesting to see how that all happens. Um, and how the makeup of our fan base is like, it's ever changing, but also sort of stays the same in a weird way.
Yeah. Okay, so new music. I got a couple quick questions.
Sure, man.
I thought it was really funny. I don't know if this is intentional or accidental. I want you to talk about it. The first song's Stress,
Yeah.
and then the next one is Widowmaker, and the irony is that Stress is the Widowmaker.
That did cross my mind. Yeah. I'm a bit crazy when it comes to sequencing of records. And with this one, it was harder because we had two records. We had
Mhm,
16 songs total over two records.
yeah.
And we figured out, like, well, where's everything gonna kind of go? But yeah, but that crossed my mind. And yeah, and it's kind of cool, like, that we were able to put a little bit of love on Stress. That was a song that I think early on, we was a lot of fun for us, kind of a different direction. It's very 90s, it's very new metal. It's not
Mhm,
really something that we would have done, I think, early in our career, because we would have looked at it as, like, sort of cheesy. But now, after it's all come and gone. Now we're kind of like, that's just kind of a fun genre, and, like, kind of a fun throwback. And we've had a lot of fun playing that song live. It goes crazy live. So we're like, you know what? Let's use some live footage, make a video. Um, and that's my favorite kind of video, when I don't have to actually
mhm,
do anything. It just shows up. Perfect.
mhm.
And then also throw Widowmaker in there too, which is, I think, a song that was one of my favorites from the session, that we never made a single and wasn't talked about all that much.
The tracks, are awesome. I mean, the whole catalog has just loaded with awesome stuff, but I love how you continue to, like, find ways to reinvent yourselves and still stay not just current, but nostalgic at the same time with your
Yeah,
own sound.
yeah,
Uh, there's this interesting concept about stress. I was thinking about this last week that I have no time in my life anymore because of maturity and living for stress, but I have all the time in the world for pressure. I think pressure is super important for me to continue to excel and create and get better. But stress, totally
right.
different. Don't want it. What does stress mean to you in this song or in general?
I think that's a really interesting thing that you say, that yeah, having some pressure to do things is motivating and can be a good thing. And yeah, and then but stress is a different thing. But sometimes it doesn't feel like it, right? Sometimes stress and pressure feel like the same thing. It's like, it's funny because so much of the time when I'm doing things, like, I'll like wake up in the morning, and I'll, like, especially on a Monday like today. Mondays tend to be very busy for me. So
Mm,
I'll like just kind of wake up in the morning, and I'll just think of all the things I have to do, and I'll be stressed about them.
yeah.
Right? I'll be like, "Oh, I got this, 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 this." And then, fast forward to 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I've done everything, and I think to myself, "Why the fuck was I stressed about that? It was fine. I got it done. It went great." And that's regular for me. Like, that's what
Yeah.
happens. And I don't know if the stress helps me do a good job, or if I could just eliminate the stress completely, if that's something that I can, you know, meditate away. I don't know, but that's like definitely maybe not daily occurrence, but a frequent occurrence that
Yeah.
that there's that there's stress. Or there's pressure too. I mean, maybe I'm stressed from the pressure. That's the line, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
uh it does tend to go hand in hand.
Do me a favor and give me or listeners, viewers, one last piece of wisdom that helps you on a daily basis. And it could be anything. Funny, sad, real, doesn't matter. What's a key mantra in your life that you live by?
Uh wow, that's tough. I think for me, I always try to be in a positive mindset, a positive mood, and I try to be like nice. And whether it's like nice to my partner or nice to my family and friends, or like, my mom calls it a bad time, like, try to be nice, and really not like let the stress and pressure that we just spoke about uh bleed into that part of my personality and who I am.
Yeah,
I think that that's really important, like I'm nice to strangers at the grocery store and at the bank and at the gym, and um somebody calls me and like is trying to sell something, I'm even nice to those people. So, I think that that's something that I think when I'm nice to somebody, it puts me in a better mood too, than if I'm just like just grumpy in my own head, focusing on whatever. I think that that's been a key thing for me to, um continue with my, positive mental attitude, and just generally be an upbeat person, and not be depressed. I think that that's been something that's important for me. And I'm not saying that you got to do it all the time. Like, it's not for everybody, maybe, but it is for me.